Hello there, and welcome to Jump Button Gamer Podcast. I'm Mike Woodard, that's Kosta. I would come up with like a clever nickname for the two of us, but I'm very tired, so I'm going to skip it for today. Today on the show, it's finally here, it's launch week, next gen is now current gen, and the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X have both hit the market, and I have a PlayStation 5. I'm trying not to rub it too much in Costa's face because I know you don't have the Xbox yet. I know you will at one point, but I'm trying not to rub it in. But so we will talk about the PlayStation 5, and we'll also talk about Miles Morales because I've had the PS5 since for about 2 days now, and I feel like I've only played Miles Morales for 2 days. So we will talk a lot about the impressions of that game and the impressions of the console itself. But first, Kosta, how did the experience go trying to acquire an Xbox Series X on launch day?
Very bad. Very bad. I mean, it literally this whole week of trying to find it anywhere has just been zeros across the board. Was it a matter of just every time something said it was in stock, it like zeroed out? So obviously Walmart was the one retailer that had actually come out and said, hey, on launch day, we're going to have more Xbox Series X's available for online purchase at noon East Coast time.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. Now, apparently a bunch of the other retailers, GameStop, Target, Best Buy, they said they were going to have more, but they didn't really give a time. Mm-hmm. Well, that time pretty much ended up being like midnight. On launch day, all the other major retailers had their stocks. So obviously by, the morning I woke up, getting ready for work, everything's gone. So I'm like, okay, there's still Walmart. So I'm at work on my lunch break and I'm just sitting at my work computer, and my office, we've got like this super speedy business class Wi-Fi, and I was ready. I'm thinking, okay, I've got a good shot. I even went ahead and actually made a Walmart account. That way I had my payment information, just everything locked and loaded, ready to go. I hit refresh like 100 times, and finally, like,
work that index finger.
Yep. Add to cart popped up, added it, and I thought I was moving pretty speedy. And no sooner do I click on my cart and hit place order, I get the alert that says the item sold, that the Series X is sold out. And I mean, literally, it was less than a minute. I mean, it took me from the time of refresh to add to cart like 30-45 seconds, like if that, and it was gone, all gone,
man.
And then there had been like information on Twitter saying that Microsoft was actually like releasing inventory little by little on their own online store. And I remember actually that night, because on Twitter they were still reporting like you can still, people are still having some success acquiring Series X's from the Microsoft store. And I was actually Tuesday nights I actually play D&D, and so I'm sitting on a Zoom call doing D&D while at the same time like refreshing the Microsoft store page over and over and over again. And every once in a while it would pop up and say add to cart.
Right.
I would add it, and I would go through the transaction, but then an error message would pop up, and then go back to the page, and it would say out of stock. But every once in a while you would refresh the page, and it would say add to cart.
Right.
And I would do it again, and just failure after failure after failure. And some people were just coming out and saying that, like, there were some people who legitimately at the same time as I was managed to get like a confirmation email.
Right.
But then only to be followed up with an email that says, actually, sorry, we have to cancel your order because the item's out of stock.
Oh my God. How is that even possible?
So that told me that it was just futile for me to continue to
oh my God.
torture myself and continually refresh that page. What was kind of irritating was I had heard that when the PS5 came out on launch day for PS5, Walmart actually had 3 separate designated times. So everyone had 3 chances throughout the day to try and get a PS5.
Right.
But they did it all at once for the Xbox. For
that's
whatever
weird.
reason, they didn't give it the same treatment. I don't know if it's because they had fewer Xboxes to sell than PS5s. I don't know. But either way, like, I don't understand why Walmart gave more opportunities for people to get PS5s. But from what I've read, the PS5 experience was very, very similar to the Xbox One.
Yeah.
You know, very, very few actual people, non-bots, were able to actually get their hands on PS5 on launch day if they didn't already have it pre-ordered.
And it's absolutely ridiculous the prices they're reselling it for. I mean, obviously we know these consoles resell for a lot when scalpers do this, but the PS5 is going for like $2,000. That's insane.
And so actually, I'll say so this weekend, my wife and I, we visited my parents this weekend to celebrate my dad's birthday, and I saw my younger brother and his wife there. So my sister-in-law actually went and managed to get him a Series X, but she paid, a scalper for one.
Oh.
But she claims, because I asked my brother, I said, well, how much did she pay for it?
Right.
And, compared to other scalpers, it was a lot cheaper, but it was still a lot more than what I would have paid. She paid $700.
Oh, yeah.
For it.
That's right.
And I think the difference is, and the reason why she got it, like, as cheap, I say like cheap because obviously, so was because the Xbox Series X that she got was one that someone had won through the Taco Bell sweepstakes. Like the giveaway, Taco Bell giveaway. So this guy just won a Series X. He didn't have to pay anything for it other than like maybe the $5 he spent at Taco Bell. And he just ended up selling that one for essentially pure profit.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why the markup wasn't nearly as intense, but still though, I mean, paying $200 above, retail price. Ooh. Again, I wouldn't, my whole logic behind that is like, I think about all the other things I could get to go along with that Xbox for $200.
Right.
I mean, that's a 1 year, that's a extra controller. That's a rechargeable battery pack and cable. That's also, a year of Game Pass Ultimate,
right?
All that stuff. You think of all the things you could do to supplement your new console.
I mean, by comparison, I bought the PS5 launch bundle that GameStop offered, and just like you said, it came with. So yes, I paid around $700-ish, but it had Spider-Man, Demon's Souls, an extra controller, PlayStation Plus for a year.
Right, so you get the value for that extra money. Like, you're just getting the console.
Yeah.
So, either way, I'm not that desperate. I don't think I ever will be, because either way, I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
And that is, like, once we get past the holiday shopping season,
right?
I mean, my hope is to be able to somehow find an Xbox Series X, at a retailer, before Black Friday, because I know I'm going to strike out just as hard with online Black Friday shopping as I have to this point, right? So, because I know once we get past Christmas, then the demand for the console is going to go down quite a bit.
Absolutely.
No one is going to be willing. These scalpers are obviously charging an erroneous amount of money for these consoles because of the holiday shopping season. And you might get a parent who's desperate to make their child extra happy on Christmas and fork up the extra $500, $600, $700 plus dollars for the console. Listen, if they're able to get people to do it, I guess more power to them. But it's just so frustrating. I mean, you can't compete with bots. It's impossible.
Right.
but I'm gonna try, and I've firmly decided if I don't get one between now and I guess Black Friday,
Sure.
then my whole game plan from then on out will just be to wait it out until after the holidays.
Sure.
And for the next wave of inventory to roll through and get one then.
Right. And it's a little bit easier if you are an Xbox person like yourself because of Game Pass and stuff like that. And the fact that a lot of the games that are coming out for these next gen consoles, at least right away, are also going to be on Game Pass. So I mean, obviously you want the new system because it offers so many great new things, but if there's ever a time that you can wait on a console, it's right now. You know what I mean? Just again, especially if you are an Xbox gamer and you have Game Pass, you're not really missing out on a whole lot. I mean, yes, obviously, the quick resume, fast load times, all that power, all that is definitely something that you want, but you have some games that can hold you over in the meantime.
Absolutely.
Thankfully.
I mean, I can if I really want to, I can still play Assassin's Creed,
right?
Valhalla. Whenever I get around to getting that. Same thing goes for Cyberpunk. As long as that still comes out on December 10th.
Right. And you'll get the next gen upgrades for those games too.
Yeah, I mean, Cyberpunk won't have the next gen upgrade right away. It's going to come out sometime early next year. But obviously, Assassin's Creed's upgrades are already there with smart delivery. But I'll whenever it happens, I'll get it. I've said this probably 100 million times at this point on past episodes. Hopefully I'll have a stroke of luck and I'll be able to find one soon. But I'm coming to terms with I'll just be patient. I'll wait it out. I mean, I didn't get an Xbox One right away when it first came out. I waited a few months.
Sure.
But I did get an Xbox One X on its launch day, though.
Well,
though I don't think there were nearly as many people that were lined up for that because it was more like a mid-generation upgrade rather than a true next generation console. So
yeah,
we'll see.
So let's kick off the show with our Now Playing segment. As always, we discuss the games that we've been playing recently. Kosta, what have you been playing in the meantime on your now past generation console? So, isn't that so weird to say now?
Yeah, so I've actually completely
Your console is now retro.
Yeah. Well, technically, you could also argue it is also kind of, as long as it is still being supported, it is kind of sort of current gen.
It is. I know. I'm making jokes, but yeah, go ahead.
So I've kind of, in a way, completely diverted away from the style of games I've been playing lately, in that I have actually, just on a whim, purchased and downloaded this game called Fuser.
Oh.
And Fuser is a music rhythm game developed by Harmonix, who are known for Rock Band.
Right. It's like a DJ mixing game, isn't it? Sort of.
Yes.
You're right.
So I had seen, because I follow Harmonix on Twitter, and I remember them announcing the game and seeing some like early footage of the gameplay. I'm like, oh, I mean, that's kind of unique. Like this is, I mean, you had games like DJ Hero and whatnot in the past, but this was like completely next level. And the game came out, it was now out there in the world, people were playing it and sort of reviewing it and sharing their thoughts, and it sounded like a lot of fun. And and I was just looking for a palate cleanser. Like this is like the ultimate, like, I mean, it's so much fun, getting to play DJ, and it's really in depth too. Like the amount of stuff that they give you control over. It's not just taking the drums from one song, the vocals from another song, the bass and guitar, or the piano from a there are other things, like you can do flangers and delays, and you can change the tuning of the song, or is it major or minor, and all this other stuff. You can really, really play around with the mixes that you do, and obviously I have zero DJ experience whatsoever. So figuring things out has been interesting, and it's also really, really fun when you just randomly put together a combination of stems that sound really, really good. There's also the fun in the challenge of taking, like, say, the vocals from a song. They're like, like for like one example, Smash Mouth's All Star is one of the songs in the game.
Of course.
Imagine trying to make a dance mix with like the vocals from All Star. So like there's sort of like challenges you can make
now you're yeah, no, I don't know.
So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a bit of a palate cleanser for me. I would say it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it's definitely one of those types of games where you can just pick it up and play it and have fun. I mean, they have a freestyle mode where you could just you can go on forever and ever and ever. Like, there's no time limit to it, and they do have sort of like I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do they have like a way that you can sort of like save your creations?
Yeah. So there's actually so if you have a particular mix that you really like, you can actually sort of save a clip of it. And the cool part is then as you save up these clips, you can automatically recall them in another set.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever. And you can also just as easily, you can share them with other people,
right.
Online, and they can download your clips and use them for their, performances and everything in the game. It's just something really, again, especially the freestyle mode, just to play around with, because there's like no fail mode in freestyle. You can just do whatever the heck you want,
right? Yeah,
for fun and just enjoy it. Whereas obviously through the campaign mode, it has a similar, star rating system like Rock Band does,
right?
And you can fail out of a performance if the crowd doesn't, because you also have to make sure like you're nailing all of your changes on the downbeat. You also have audience requests that you need to keep up with, along with like goals and things like that you have to meet. And so you're juggling it, and it can get challenging. Like eventually, I've gotten to a point in the game where they're throwing so much stuff at you that you need to keep track of.
Oh.
But it's a fun challenge. It's different. I would recommend. I mean, it's on all the consoles. It's on Switch. It's on Xbox. It's on PlayStation. It's on PC. I would recommend anybody who just wants to have something different in their back pocket to go to.
Right.
Download it and play it. It's a lot of fun. It would probably also make a fun party game. I would think too.
Parties.
There's a co-op. There's a co-op mode.
What are those?
Exactly. Yeah. But there is a co-op mode in it, which I'm interested in trying with my wife, and and just seeing how that goes.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So whenever parties are a thing again, like I imagine like that would be a fun game to break out.
What are these mystical experiences you refer to as? You mean gatherings of other people?
What are parties?
Is that going to be like a Jeopardy question in the future? Like, what are? No, that's great. That's awesome. As you alluded to, or we may have alluded to, I have been playing the PlayStation 5. So I have a few game impressions from a few the games I played on it so far. Very shortly, I played Astro's Playroom. It's the pack-in game that comes with the PlayStation 5, and it's very, very cute. Because the game starts off and you play as Astro, this little bot that I feel like somewhere down the line Sony's going to end up making like their main mascot, almost like a Mario type of mascot, because he's so cute. He doesn't say anything, but he's just his actions and just everything he does is super cute, and it's just super joyful. And basically the game takes place inside the PlayStation 5. So you as Astro enter the PlayStation 5, and then you have different levels you can go to. Like you can go to the fan, which is the cooling springs level. You can go to the GPU lab. And it's fun. It kind of reminds me of Mario. Like, it has these open sandbox environments. You go around, you find collectibles, and it's all just kind of cute and charming. But the best thing about it is that it sells you on the DualSense controller. And we've talked about this controller, obviously, on the show before. Obviously, the big selling points of the controller are the adaptive triggers and the haptic feedbacks. And I will say, it is cool feeling the haptic feedbacks when like Astro is like running on metal. You can feel the difference when he's running on metal as opposed to when he's in the water. And it does give you a level of immersion that you're just like, oh, this feels cool. You know, like it's the first thing that really grabs you about the console, especially since it's a pack-in. So I played it while waiting for the next game we're going to talk about to load. And it just was a fun, like, unique experience. But the coolest thing that I found so far are the adaptive triggers. There is a very early minigame in Astro's Playroom where you're trying to play a claw vending machine sort of thing, where you have to use a claw to get these cans out of a machine, and then you have to crush these cans to try to get like a puzzle piece inside of them. And it's funny because with the adaptive trigger, it's not just like you just click the trigger and boom, it's crushed. You have to like hold it down, and then you have to like release it and press it again to fully crush it. You know, it's like it's little things like that that just kind of add to your experience. And it doesn't take away anything. And it's very interesting. It doesn't feel gimmicky, too, at least not with Astro's Playroom. It feels like it's a natural evolution to the dual shock, when you had the rumble and the microphone in the controller and the flashing lights. It kind of feels like a natural step up. Obviously, there's still questions about, you know, who's really going to use this? Is it going to get tiring after a while? You know, is it still going to be supported after a while? But I will say it is kind of weird going back to playing a game that doesn't have that stuff. And you're like, why can't I feel my character stepping on hard ground in the controller? So there's a little bit of that. So that was fun. But I have to bring up Spider-Man Miles Morales. I have played it to death. I got the PlayStation 5 on like the Friday after it came out, and I played Miles Morales basically all day Friday, stayed up till about 2 a.m., then played it all day Saturday as much as I could. And it is like, I loved the first Spider-Man PS4 game. This game feels like an upgrade. Even though it's only a half sequel-ish, it feels like a step in the right direction. It doesn't feel phoned in. It doesn't feel like a DLC. It feels like a legit experience, and it feels like... this is going to sound weird, but it's even smoother than the first game. Your movements, everything about it just feels more natural and smooth than the first game does.
Is that a result of it being, you know, in 60 frames per second, just like having those extra frames just looks smoother? I
will admit I haven't played in that mode just yet, because it offers fidelity mode, which is just the standard 30 frames. Well, standard, you know what I mean. So it offers 30 frames, but it gives you the ray tracing, the visual effects. And now in the performance mode, you can have the 60 frames per second, but you won't have like ray tracing and some of those visuals. So I'm going for the visuals first. Once I beat the game, I'll probably play it again in the performance mode. But what makes it feel smoother, I think, is a combination of a few things. One, no real load times. None. I mean, you can start the game within seconds. You know what I mean? Like, from when you turn your console on to getting into the game, all takes about maybe less than 30 seconds. Like, so that's impressive. You know, you can fast travel in the game without any load times. In the first game, you had segments where, okay, you had to transition from Spider-Man to Peter, right? So to do that, you would go to, like, the rooftop of Feast. You would find your backpack, you know, press the button, and then you would wait for a little bit of a load screen, or at least a fade out, fade in screen. In this game, none of that exists. So the reason why it feels smoother is, like, you know, I was Miles and I swung to the top of Feast and I pressed that button to change into normal Miles, non-Spider-Man Miles. And instead of like a flash in, flash out, the camera just pans from the rooftop down to the entrance of Feast, and Miles walks into frame. So it's one of those cool, like, in-game transitions that it's almost like the same experience when you first played Grand Theft Auto 5. And when, Grand Theft Auto was always about, you would go to a mission marker, it would fade in, fade out, But GTA 5 finally broke that, and as you approached your mission marker, you would see characters come out and you would transition into the cutscene seamlessly. So that's kind of what it felt like. So that's what it feels like it did for Spider-Man. So that's why it feels smoother. And just Miles's animations, just everything about it, the way he goes from one movement to the other or one combat motion to the other, just all feels so natural, feels so right. I know you played the first game. I know you don't have a PS4 anymore, but I'm telling you, it feels like an improvement. And it gets me so much more excited for an actual sequel. Because if this is what they can do to showcase this console at the launch of the system, when they haven't even really delved into the full details of what this hardware can do, man, the next game is going to be crazy. But no, I really love Miles Morales so far. I'm like halfway through the story, I think. I think I think it might be one of the best launch titles I've ever played in my life. That might be hyperbole, but right now, that's what I feel. I feel like I never have enjoyed a game at launch as much as I'm enjoying this one. Christmas time at New York and all that, and just everything about it so far has hit, and I'm very, very happy.
Are you gonna give Demon Souls a shot?
Ooh, I am still debating about that because it's like I have it, and it's like, do I want to open it and ruin its resale value and take it? Because again, I've never played any of the Souls games. I don't know how I'm going to like them or not. I don't know if I am going to like it. I honestly can't say for sure. You know what I mean? So it's like, do I want to go with the potential unknown, or do I want to try to sell my copy of Demon Souls and get a game that I'm fairly certain I might enjoy, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example?
Sure.
So I don't know yet. I haven't really made up my mind. That's really the very first thing I thought of when I opened up the box. I'm like, now I don't know. I'm tempted. I mean, I should read the review for Demon Souls and see what people say about it.
I mean, it sounds like everything's been fairly positive, and that's a game too that looks graphically impressive.
Yes.
As well. I mean, because that game is a from the ground up remake.
It's true.
Of Demon Souls, and so I guess if you ever are willing to take on the challenge, I guess give it a try. I mean, they are brutal. Like I myself have never owned any of the Souls games personally. I have played them. Other people who have owned them, just hang out like at a friend's house or something, and and trying it then. I mean, and it's brutal. Like you need to have a certain level of patience and control of your emotions playing it. I mean, because really those games, for anyone who is familiar with them, knows that it really is just a matter of sort of going through a level over and over and over again is a part of the game experience.
Right.
Because you learn the ins and outs of a part of the level. You know exactly when certain enemies are going to appear. You learn, the sort of those small windows of opportunity when fighting a boss, when to make your move, things of that nature. And it's just all trial and error.
Right. I was going to say you have to learn that stuff out of necessity, right?
Exactly. But you do have those rare individuals who are complete masochists, and they try and play, they try and get themselves so good, so just masterful at this game that they try and play through them without dying a single time. And there are a number of people who have been successful at that, and that is beyond impressive, but also kind of frightening to think how much time was invested to become that skilled
People
the
with
game.
way more time than me.
I mean,
I'm just going to put that out there. Way more time than me.
And it's not just a matter of skill, but it's also memory, because you have to memorize these things. You have to know like exact moments and in the game, so that way you can be prepared and everything. It's absolutely insane. But I guess if I were in your shoes, I would probably go for Valhalla as well. Try and see if I could swap it for Valhalla.
I was leaning that way. I was definitely leaning that way.
Or Cyberpunk.
Oh, good thought, sir. Moving on, but not going to be moving on too much, because now it's time for our console wars segment. And again, we've mentioned it before, and this is the last time I'm going to bring it up. I know we can't really get into the Xbox Series X because we don't have one to talk about. I know. I promise that's the last time I'm going to bring it up. But I do have the PlayStation 5, so I do want to give at least my thoughts. So when I first opened the console, we've talked about this on the show before, and I know people can kind of tell how big the console is a little bit, just even if they watch videos. But I tell you, it's nothing like seeing it in person. It's massive. Like it's one of those where you just can't comprehend until you see it. And once you see it, it's like, oh, this is crazy. So I don't know if you've seen the unboxing video, Kosta, or no, you haven't seen my setup video because I didn't post that one. But basically, I had to set it on its side as I set up, unfortunately, because I mean I did have space on top, but I don't know, just the way that my setup is, I thought it worked best to lay it on its side and put it underneath where all the other consoles were. But yeah, so setting it up was an interesting question of, where do I put it? It was very simple to set up, though, once I made that decision. It was very easy, relatively easy, to transfer data from the PS4 to PS5. I know I've talked about the controller a little bit. I do think the controller is one of the selling points of the system. I have had a few tiny glitches playing it so far. For example, Miles Morales has crashed on me twice. Again, it's not a big problem, I don't know what caused those crashes necessarily. But because the games load up so fast, it doesn't feel like as prohibitive as it would have in the past. You know what I mean? Like, because the load times are so quick, it feels like you can get back into it within seconds. And so that wasn't too bad. I did have one issue with the console when it first went into rest mode and I woke it up. It then froze or something on me, where for whatever reason my TV lost the video signal. And I end up having to turn the console off and turn it back on, which was weird. And it's one of those, like, I don't know if there's anything I can do to fix that or correct that. I just kind of have to deal with it and move on. But I do like the console so far. I have tried putting in some older games just to see how they play. I will say Red Dead Redemption 2's load times are a lot faster. Shadow of War's load times, and that game's load times were ungodly long.
Right.
That game loaded up very fast, and I was very surprised. It's really awesome to have the PlayStation Plus collection available. There's like a whole list of like 20 games that I know I can download. I'm kind of hesitating on that, though, and I'm kind of cherry picking the ones I want to put on my system right now, because I'm already only down to about 200 gigabytes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's only 600 gigabytes of storage, and you can blow through it fairly fast, especially if you transfer your data from the PS4. It's pretty much, that's going to take up the bulk of it, most likely. Yeah. So those are my early impressions. I haven't dug too far into a lot of things. like I said, it loads fast. It looks nice. The user interface is clean. You have easy access to certain things. So if I take a screenshot in Spider-Man, I can press the PlayStation button, and then I can go scroll through the toolbar, and I can find the most recent picture, and I can post it on Twitter from there. So stuff like that is kind of neat.
Sure.
And the cards are kind of cool because if you bring up the toolbar, it gives you these cards, and they kind of show like, okay, here's a side mission you can do. Here's a trophy you can go after. Here are collectibles you can go after. And you can kind of, click those cards for details. Mm-hmm. And I think if I were to test it out more, I think you could probably jump to those missions, like in the game. I'm not sure. But it does not have a quick resume like we've said before, but it does have a game switcher. So you can hit that toolbar, and if you wanted to switch to another game, it would have a game switcher, and it'll show you your recently played. And you can then go to that game, and it'll close down the game you have, and it opens up the new game. So it's not really a quick resume. You can't go to like the state that you were in, but sure. with the loading times being so fast, that's not really an issue. You know what I mean? It only takes you a few seconds to jump from game to game. So it's just, I know I keep mentioning that about the load times, but you have no idea how something that simple makes such a big difference. Because we grew up in the Super Nintendo era. Right? Where we could just plug in a cartridge and start playing a game within 30 seconds. You know what I mean? There was no load times or anything. You just plugged in the cartridge, you see the studio logos, and then you start playing. Right?
Right.
Well, it's taken us about like 20, 30 years just to get back to that spot. So that's very exciting to me.
I mean, it's been a slow and steady progression, but
right.
Now I feel like now we're at the point now where, I mean, as far as console gaming goes, I mean, I don't know how much better it can really get without it borderlining. I mean, really already they are sort of right up against sort of like the lower end of, gaming PCs.
Right.
When you take the pricing into account and everything. I think somebody said if you took the components of the Series X or the PS5 and you tried to build a PC with similar specs, it would be like a sub $1,000 gaming PC, but everything would add up to being more than $500 though.
Right.
Right. So the value's there for sure, and but I think we're at a point now where both Sony and Microsoft, I think they're just going to continue now with the mid-generation upgrades.
Probably.
I don't know if we'll ever have like a true next generation. I don't know if PlayStation 6 will ever be a thing, or I don't know what. I mean, again, Microsoft's naming conventions are so strange. I don't know if it'd be like the Xbox Series 2 or whatever. Like, I don't know.
It'll just be Xbox 2. It's Xbox 2. Forget all the other. It's like when you have a movie series that's gone on so long, you don't even know what to call the series anymore. So it's just. Right. They're just going to go with Xbox next time. It's just back to Xbox. Which Xbox? I don't know. It's just an Xbox.
But you figure 3 years from now, we might see our first upgrades to the consoles. We'll probably see a PS5 Pro and Xbox Series X Plus or what, I don't know, whatever they call it.
You know what? You're probably right, because I actually just heard about somebody reminded me on a podcast that I heard earlier today that the PS4 came out in 2013, and about 3 years later the Pro came out.
Right.
It was about 3 or 4 years later. So yeah, I can totally see that happening. I mean, the last generation was 7 years basically.
Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if the window is as short as 2 years. If they're just doing incremental upgrades,
Right.
Because it doesn't take very long for computer components to go down in price, because they're always developing newer and better and faster components.
Right.
So as whatever is now considered top of the line now, 2 years from now, it's going to be outdated. It's going to be cheaper. So then those components you can put into a console and sell it for $500.
Right.
So I mean, it'll be interesting. I really do think we're at a point now where they could start treating consoles, and we've used sort of this analogy before, but like smartphones.
Right. Yeah.
Where the idea is, instead of every, 6, 7, 8 years, it could be every couple of years. But then that also sort of, it might be a bit of a slight to those who are early adopters.
Right, of course.
Because it's like, oh man, I spent $500 on this. This was supposed to be the greatest, most powerful, console.
Yeah.
And now it's 2 years later and it's already being, outperformed.
Right.
But I think that's just, but that's sort of how it's always worked, though.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, if it's not an increase in performance, it's a better look. It's a better appearance.
Right.
The PS3 and the 360 generation, the consoles didn't get more powerful. They just looked better as time went on. Like, they refined the appearance of the console. But that was still kind of appealing, though.
Right.
When they finally slimmed down the PS3, it was a far better looking console.
Yes. Oh yeah, the PS3 we thought at the time was massive and bulky.
It was heavy, right?
Yeah,
right.
And then the PS5 came out.
Yeah, exactly.
However many years later.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting. I do believe we are like, I can't even imagine being like a kid growing up playing these games.
My god. I don't mean to interrupt you on that thought, but yeah, I saw a tweet where somebody said some kid's first console is going to be a PS5.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and their first game is going to be Spider-Man Miles Morales. And like, where do you go from there?
Goodness.
Growing up and playing where it was just a handful of pixels on a screen has now, we've been able to see this evolution in gaming, so it's incredible stuff. And
it is.
I'm excited for the day when I can finally come on this podcast and say that I am now a member of the new generation of gaming, and I can share in everyone else's excitement.
And then one day later, they're going to announce the mid-generation upgrade.
Exactly.
That's exactly how it's going to go down.
Yep.
Actually, it is funny that you bring that up, because when I first played Miles Morales, it turns out my smart TV had some sort of like restriction on HDR output that I had to turn on HDR for a few of my outputs. Mm-hmm. So included the one that PlayStation 5 was on. So, like, when I first started playing, I was like, okay, this game looks pretty good. But for some reason, it wasn't, like, hitting my brain as, like, oh, my God, this is gorgeous. The moment I turned that HDR on for those outputs, oh, my God, the difference was amazing. I was then immediately blown away. I know a lot, when cable transitioned from standard definition to high definition, there are members of my family who fought it. And, they were like, oh, I can't see a difference. and it drove me crazy. And it felt like this was the same thing. You almost think at first you think, oh, there's not a whole lot of difference between 1080 and HDR. Yes, there is. So if you are getting a new console, please make sure you have the TV that can fully take advantage of these graphics. Because I guarantee you the difference between 1080 Miles Morales and 4K or HDR Miles Morales is insane, and it's worth every single investment.
I will say, just real quick, I remember my first experience of playing a console game in HD.
Yeah.
It was actually, funny enough, I believe it would have been NBA 2K7, 2K6 or 2K7.
Wow.
One of those two. And because when I got my Xbox 360, it just had the composite cables with it. It didn't have the component. That's right. Didn't have the component cable. So I was playing in standard definition.
Yes.
And we had this big hulking. I mean, obviously the base for it and the frame of it were very thick and massive. It was just like a 50-inch TV in my parents' basement, and it did have one set of component inputs on the back. I mean, obviously this is pre-HDMI and all that stuff. So, I remember walking into GameStop at the mall and saw the component cable, and and I was like, so if I get this, I can play in high definition. But I had no idea what it would look like. What am I getting with this? So I bought the component cable, got home, plugged it in, and just within like seconds of starting to play a game on 2K. Keep in mind, like, I'm like 16 years old, 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Depending on which 2K it was. I can't remember which was, but it was one of those. And I was just like losing my mind.
Yeah.
I was like losing my mind. I was so blown away by it, even at that age, being a mid-aged teenage, like, I like had to go like, Dad, Mom, look at this is crazy. Look at this.
And then they walk in and they're like,
no,
okay.
but like, at least my dad came across as reasonably impressed,
right?
Because it was even right around that time, with like sports games where they started having more accurate, like sort of like face scans,
right,
for the players, and so like you would see someone like Kobe Bryant or Shaquille O'Neal and HD, like that looks like them. That's Kobe Bryant. Like that's LeBron James. You're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So I remember like that first time, like getting that cable, and and now with things like HDR, the higher frame rates,
yeah,
and you have other things like Dolby Vision and all these other features that some TVs have that these consoles support. I mean, it's eventually we're gonna get to that point where we're not gonna know what real life is anymore.
Is this real life?
Yep.
It was like the Honest trailer that described the outdoors as having HD realistic graphics.
Yep.
Actually, funny thing, I remember way back when playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and that game was a technical achievement at the time.
Sure.
Right? Like it had 3 cities. It was like the largest GTA game at the time. It was crazy. And if you look at it now, it looks like crap. It looks like utter garbage now. I mean, obviously it didn't age well. But I remember in that game, there's a radio ad where somebody on the radio at some point says, the PlayStation 5 will be as powerful as the human brain. And I don't think we've reached that. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but it's kind of jarring that we're actually here. Yeah. Like it's kind of, that makes me feel old, unfortunately. And actually, to stay on point a little bit with that too, all you need to know is watch the even if you don't have the PlayStation 5, watch the video of Miles Morales, like of gameplay walkthrough footage at the highest quality you can, and then watch footage of Spider-Man 2, the video game from the PS2. And we thought that was one of the like greatest looking games at the time. Now when you watch it, you're just like, oh my god, that is ugly. Yeah. Like
compared to
you can barely even see Spider-Man on the screen.
I mean, like I remember the original Spider-Man game on the PS1.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember like the opening sequence to that game is like you're swinging and everything, but like I mean, again, this is PlayStation 1. As you're swinging, they're literally like 3 buildings, and they make it look like you're swinging above the clouds. Like, what are you swinging to?
Yeah, like
what are you swinging to? What are the webs sticking to?
The webs are sticking to the clouds. Yeah, that was the big improvement in Spider-Man 2. That was like the biggest innovation ever. It's like the webs stick to buildings now. That's what made it the best Spider-Man game for the longest time.
Yep.
So those are my early impressions of the PS5. We'll talk more about it as the weeks go on. It's just, we're here, man. It just feels so, like I'm very lucky that I got my console, and like, I'm glad to have it, but it just in general, it's just a weird sense that we're actually here. I mean, when we started this show, we've been talking about the PS5 and Xbox Series X ever since we started this podcast.
Yep.
And so it's just odd to actually be here. But it's exciting.
Until I actually get my hands on one, I'm not going to believe the Series X exists yet. I'm just going to assume that the Series X has not actually come out yet, because I haven't actually been able to get my hands on one.
That actually made me think of somebody. I saw an image posted. It was like a parody image of CD Projekt Red's announcements about Cyberpunk, and one of them was read like the game was never actually in development. Sorry, guys. Yeah. like that was an official announcement.
This is just like the whole thing. Like, if a tree falls in the forest, no one's around to hear, does it still make a noise? Well, if I'm not able to find a Series X to play, then does it even actually exist? So,
exactly. It's Schrodinger's Xbox. It's Schrodinger's Xbox. It both exists and doesn't exist at the same time.
Yep. Unfortunately.
All right. We're going to wrap up the show a little differently this week. We're just going to do a quick last week in game news. There's not a whole lot of game news that isn't next-gen console related, really. But, Kosta, I'm sure you enjoyed hearing this more particularly than me. But the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster has been announced.
Remaster. Yep.
Right.
Yep,
It's called the Legendary Edition. Dude, don't trip on my headline reading.
Sorry.
Come on, man.
A lot of people were hoping that maybe they would go full-blown remake, at least for Mass Effect 1. Because that one is so different from the sequels, But they're being very clear in their messaging that it's a remaster. Yeah. I do hope that maybe they do something extra with Mass Effect 1 just to make the gameplay as smooth as it was in the sequels. But I'm excited. I am very likely to purchase it and play it because it is it's a great trilogy beginning to end.
Right. It is supposed to arrive in spring 2021. I believe that's the most we know about it, really. I mean, like you said, hopefully they apply some of the graphical engine developments to the first game, which would be good. I mean, that's what you really should do with a remaster is make the experience at least smoother, more enjoyable, or maybe not more enjoyable, but at least make it a pleasant experience.
Well, it's more so about the gunplay and the actual gameplay itself for the first one because they changed it so drastically with 2 and 3, and it plays so much better. Right. So I don't know. I have my doubts about that, but I'll still be eager to play it. And if I don't have a Series X yet, by that point I can still play it on Xbox One X. So there's also that. So I'll still be able to play more Mass Effect with or without a Series X if I don't have it by spring of next year.
There you go. Hey, that's the positive way to think about it, right?
Glass half full.
Hey, that's a good spirit to end the show on, right?
Yep.
There's no trivia today, guys, so we're just going to end it right there. We hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for tuning in. You can connect with us on Twitter and Facebook with @JumpButtonPod. We will be taking at least a small break for the holidays, so we might be off the air for a few weeks. So hopefully you enjoy our show, but stick with us because we will post throughout the holidays. So until next time, see you in the funny paper.